Have you ever walked into your living room, everything seemingly in its place, no dishes in the sink, no laundry on the chair, and yet, it still feels heavy? Like the air itself is thick with something unspoken? It's probably not the dust. It's not even the mess. It's the decor. The kind of invisible clutter that builds up quietly over time, especially after 60, when life changes but our surroundings don't always follow. Many seniors keep items not because they're useful or beautiful, but because they've just always been there. And little by little, those items stop decorating and start suffocating. One soft figurine. An untouched throw pillow. A bowl on the table that hasn't held anything in a decade. These things collect more than dust, they collect stillness. And over time, that stillness can start to feel like a quiet weight pressing in. So let's ask the real question, what's the one thing in your home right now that used to bring you joy, but now just sits there, absorbing time, light, and energy? Be honest. Let us know in the comments. We're here to reflect together, not judge. And if this video gets you to look at just one item differently today, go ahead and like this video. Subscribe if you believe your home should reflect who you are now, not just who you were before. This is Wise Aging Seniors, and today, we're clearing space not just for peace, but for purpose. Eudora Mae never considered herself a cluttered person. At 73, she had long since downsized from the big colonial house she and her late husband once raised their boys in. Now, she lived alone in a peaceful, two-bedroom bungalow in northern Michigan, a place she often described as just enough for me and my thoughts. The floors were swept, the dishes always done, and the couch cushions fluffed every morning like clockwork. But despite the order, there was a subtle discomfort she couldn't name. It wasn't until her neighbor's daughter, visiting from out of state, made an offhand comment, "Your house feels kind of heavy," that it struck her. Eudora Mae stood there in her living room, surrounded by perfectly placed decor, 3 shelves of porcelain swans, a floral wreath above a fireplace that hadn't been lit in years, and 5 different throw pillows no one ever leaned on. Everything was where it had always been, but suddenly, she couldn't remember why. It wasn't mess. It was memory buildup. Pieces of her past layered into her present until the two were indistinguishable. A dried bouquet from a funeral long ago. A framed quote that once gave her courage during a rough time, but now felt oddly irrelevant. Trinkets gifted out of obligation. Items that once held emotion but now just occupied space. That night, she sat in her armchair and did something radical. She looked around as if she were visiting her own home for the first time. Not with sentiment, but with curiosity. What was actually adding to her peace? And what was simply holding a place because she didn't want to hurt its feelings? And that's where her journey began, not with trash bags or donation bins, but with one simple question: does this still reflect who I am today? Eudora Mae's story isn't rare. Many older adults hold on to decor not out of love, but habit. And those habits, left unexamined, can keep us tied to versions of ourselves we've long since outgrown. She didn't declutter to empty her home, she did it to reclaim it. Not from dirt. From emotional dust. And as we walk through her most surprising discoveries, you might just start seeing your own home with fresh eyes too. Item 1. Useless trinket towers. Eudora Mae had a corner curio cabinet that had traveled with her through 3 homes and nearly 4 decades. It was glass-fronted, with delicate etched panels and tiny brass knobs, and for years, it had been her pride. Inside, rows of miniature porcelain animals, tiny crystal bells from long-forgotten vacation stops, and a collection of commemorative spoons from all 50 states, gifts from her sister, who passed years ago. Every shelf was arranged just so, with soft lighting and careful balance. But over time, the cabinet had become more museum than memory. One afternoon, Eudora bent down to retrieve a sock that had fallen behind her reading chair, and from that low angle, she caught a glimpse of the bottom shelf. Dust. A thick, undisturbed layer covering the base of a figurine shaped like a tiny ballerina. It dawned on her, she couldn't remember the last time she'd opened the cabinet, much less dusted inside it. These weren't treasured items anymore. They were forgotten. And strangely, that realization didn't make her sad. It made her feel free. We don't often talk about how clutter doesn't always look messy. Sometimes, it's carefully arranged, sentimental, and beautiful in its own way. But beauty that no longer sparks recognition becomes background noise. And seniors, especially those living alone, often carry the silent weight of decor that hasn't been truly seen in years. Younger generations are shifting toward clear, breathable surfaces, not out of cold minimalism, but to create mental ease. There's wisdom in that. Eudora realized that her whatnot shelves weren't bringing her comfort anymore. They were acting as placeholders for a past she didn't need to keep reperforming. She didn't throw everything away. She kept 3 meaningful pieces: a tiny bird her grandson gave her, a bell from her honeymoon, and 1 spoon from her late sister's hometown. Everything else? Photographed, thanked, and released. Ask yourself, if someone walked into your living room today and asked you about that collection on your shelf, would you have a story, or would you shrug? Trinket towers can be lovely, but when they stop connecting you to joy, they begin collecting weight. It's okay to let them go. There's power in allowing your space to breathe, because your piece deserves more room than your dust. Item 2. Outdated wall art with no meaning. Eudora Mae had a painting in her hallway of a vase with bright yellow sunflowers. It had been there since the early 90s, bought during a weekend sale at a local home goods store. 4 years, she walked past it without a thought, sometimes glancing at it when dusting the frame, but never really seeing it. It didn't upset her, but it didn't inspire her either. It was simply there. One evening, as she was rearranging family photos to include her newest great-grandchild, she paused and realized, if the painting disappeared tomorrow, would she even miss it? The answer was no. This is something many seniors experience without noticing. Over time, we accumulate pieces of wall art because they fill the space or look nice but carry no real connection. It's easy to overlook how this type of decor slowly turns into visual clutter, taking up emotional and physical space without giving anything meaningful back. A painting you've stopped noticing is just wallpaper disguised as art. Eudora decided to replace her sunflower painting with something deeply personal, a framed handwritten recipe from her mother, written on an old, yellowed index card. Every time she passed it, it made her smile, reminding her of warm kitchens and Sunday dinners. That single change transformed how her hallway felt. It wasn't just decoration anymore, it was memory made visible. For many older adults, refreshing wall art can breathe life into a room without spending much or even buying anything new. A beloved poem in elegant script, a collage of candid family photos, or even a handwritten note from a loved one can bring warmth and authenticity in ways a mass-produced print never could. This isn't just about style, it's about connection. Take a moment to look around your walls. What do they say about who you are now, not 20 years ago? Is there one wall you could clear today and make entirely your own? Tell us in the comments, what would you hang there if you started fresh? Item 3. Fake plants that look tired. Eudora Mae had always loved the idea of plants. Years ago, she kept a small garden behind her home, filled with daisies, lavender, and tomatoes that made the whole neighborhood jealous. But now, at 73, mobility wasn't what it used to be, and she'd slowly swapped her living greenery for low-maintenance plastic ones. At first, it made sense. No watering, no pests, no bending. But over time, something changed. One day, while vacuuming under her hallway console, she paused beside a faded artificial fern that had sat in the same spot for nearly 8 years. The leaves had lost their color. The base was covered in dust she hadn't noticed. And for the first time, she realized something quietly unsettling. This greenery didn't make the space feel alive, it made it feel stuck. Fake plants are meant to mimic nature's liveliness. But over time, especially when they're not well kept, they do the opposite. They become static. And in a home that already carries so many still memories, that's the last thing you need more of. There's a growing shift happening among seniors, moving away from cluttered faux foliage and towards spaces that feel light, natural, and easy to breathe in. Not everyone wants or needs a plant in every corner, but when something is meant to bring vibrancy and instead collects dust, it's time to rethink its purpose. Eudora decided to let go of all but one. She replaced her hallway fern with a single snake plant, low maintenance, real, and resilient. It only needed water every 2 weeks and gave her back something plastic never could: a sense of nurturing, however small. For others, even one real plant might be too much, and that's okay. The goal isn't to add pressure, it's to create a space that genuinely lifts your spirit. Sometimes, a simple vase with a rotating stem of fresh eucalyptus or dried lavender can bring more peace than a jungle of plastic leaves. So here's the question: look around your home. Are those plants energizing the room, or are they quietly fading into the background? Don't be afraid to let go of what's pretending to be alive. Because your home deserves real comfort, not just the illusion of it. But the next item? Most people defend it to the end. Even Eudora did, until she realized it was silently taking up more than just space. Item 4. Excessive throw pillows. Eudora Mae never intended to become a throw pillow collector, it just sort of happened. 1 for her favorite reading chair. 2 for the couch. A few decorative ones for the guest room, even though no one had stayed in it for over a year. Then came the holiday-themed ones, the embroidered ones, and the ones she found on clearance that were too cute to pass up. Before she knew it, her small living room was practically overflowing with soft squares of all sizes, colors, and tassels. The turning point came one evening when she went to sit down on her couch after a long day. She sighed as she spent more than a minute removing 6 throw pillows just to create space to sit comfortably. When she finally settled in, she realized something: none of those pillows actually made her feel more at ease. They were obstacles, not comforts. She looked around at the cushions stacked on the floor and asked herself, who am I doing this for? Throw pillows have become a kind of silent home decor addiction, especially among older adults who want their space to feel warm, cozy, or finished. But too many of them create the opposite effect: visual clutter, physical inconvenience, and even tripping hazards when they spill over. Not to mention the time spent constantly adjusting, fluffing, or cleaning them, especially for seniors who deal with arthritis or limited mobility. Eudora made a decision that night. She kept 3 pillows, 1 firm lumbar pillow for her lower back, 1 plush square that cradled her head during afternoon naps, and 1 smaller cushion her granddaughter had made in sewing class. The rest? Donated or offered to friends who truly needed them. What surprised her most wasn't how much better the room looked, it was how much better she felt in it. Fewer pillows meant easier movement, faster cleaning, and clearer lines of sight. And most importantly, it reclaimed her space as a place of rest, not of over-decoration. Here's the quiet truth many don't say out loud: comfort doesn't come from how much you own, it comes from how well each thing serves you. If your pillows are just in the way, maybe it's time to make space for what really supports you. Take a look at your bed, your sofa, your armchair. Are those cushions cozy companions or just background noise with zippers? If it takes more than 10 seconds to make a spot to sit, it might be time to lighten the load, 1 pillow at a time. Item 5. Collector's china that never moves. Eudora Mae's grandmother's china was stored in a tall oak hutch with glass doors, each dish carefully displayed like a museum piece. Ivory porcelain with pale blue edges and hand-painted gold trim. She remembered the stories behind them, how her grandmother saved for years to buy the set 1 plate at a time, how it was only used on special occasions, how it once made Christmas Eve dinners feel like a royal banquet. But that was a different era. In Eudora's home, the dishes hadn't been touched, not once, in over 30 years. Not because they weren't loved, but because they were untouchable. Too fragile. Too nice. Too tied to a memory of someone long gone. And that's the strange trap so many seniors fall into. We confuse honoring someone's legacy with preserving their things untouched. But what Eudora realized one afternoon, as she wiped yet another layer of dust off the hutch, was this: keeping every piece of that china didn't make her feel close to her grandmother. It made her feel obligated. So she asked herself something difficult: if I were gone tomorrow, would anyone else even want these? That one question shifted everything. Instead of keeping the full set, Eudora chose her favorite teacup and saucer. It had a tiny chip in it, which made her smile, because she remembered the night it happened during a Thanksgiving toast. She had it framed in a deep shadow box, with a handwritten note tucked beside it, for Grandma Louisa, who made every table feel like home. That one display piece now hung in her dining room, and it told a story, not just filled space. The rest of the set? She offered it to her nieces and granddaughters. A few pieces were taken, most weren't. So she donated them to a charity that helps refugee families set up new homes. In letting them go, Eudora passed forward not the object, but the spirit of celebration they once carried. Heirlooms don't have to live forever to matter. The real legacy is in the meaning, not the material. So here's your moment of reflection. What's one heirloom you're holding onto out of duty, not joy? What's one piece you could highlight and let the rest find new life elsewhere? Let us know in the comments below. Sharing your story might help someone else take their first step, too. Item 6. Year-round seasonal decor. Eudora Mae didn't even notice it at first. The tiny ceramic pumpkin tucked beside her bookshelf. The faded red and green merry and bright pillow that had quietly become part of her year-round sofa setup. A dusty Easter bunny figurine that sat behind her kitchen sink, its ears chipped, its colors faded by time and sunlight. One day, her neighbor dropped by for tea and gently asked, "Still celebrating Christmas in May?" That's when Eudora paused and really looked at her living room. Seasonal decor has a way of lingering. At first, it stays up a little longer because taking it down feels like too much effort. Then suddenly, it blends into the background, becoming invisible, yet still occupying space, collecting dust, and subtly confusing the energy of the room. When everything is festive all the time, nothing feels truly special. This kind of silent clutter is more common than people admit, especially among older adults. Sometimes, it's hard to know when a season has passed, especially when the days blend together, or life feels quieter than it used to. For Eudora, keeping those little seasonal pieces out year-round felt like a way of keeping joy around. But instead of sparking happiness, they had started dulling the atmosphere. The magic was gone. That's when she created what she now calls her seasonal joy box. Inside, she kept 2 or 3 intentional items for each season. Her favorite winter candle and a snowflake dish. A spring garland her granddaughter made in preschool. A small wooden pumpkin. A cloth heart for Valentine's Day. Simple, meaningful, and easy to rotate. Each season, she'd swap them out, give them a moment of love, then tuck them away until next year. What changed? Her home began to breathe again. Each season became a gentle shift, a moment to pause and reflect. It wasn't about decorating, it was about staying connected to the present moment. And the best part? It took less than 5 minutes to rotate each time. If your home has slowly become a mashup of holiday leftovers, consider this: when every season is visible, none of them are felt. Let your space reflect now, not a permanent parade of then. What about you? What's one out-of-season item still hanging around your home? Drop it in the comments, we won't judge. We're all learning to live with a little more intention, one shelf at a time. Item 7. Heavy curtains and busy Valances. For decades, Eudora Mae's living room was framed in thick burgundy velvet drapes, complete with tasseled valances and heavy curtain rods that creaked slightly when drawn. They had been fashionable once, chosen during a time when homes were meant to feel grand and formal. She remembered how proud she was when they were first installed. But over the years, something changed. The color faded, the fabric absorbed the scent of time, and the weight of the curtains, both literal and emotional, began to feel out of place. What finally tipped her off wasn't the look, but the light, or rather, the lack of it. One gray winter morning, she realized she was struggling to read the newspaper in her favorite chair. Even with the lamp on, the room still felt dim and heavy. When she pulled the curtain open just a few extra inches, it was like a veil lifted, not just from the window, but from her mood. Many seniors don't realize how much their window treatments are affecting their daily well-being. Heavy drapes and layered valances block more than sunlight. They block the natural cues our bodies use to regulate energy, sleep, and emotional clarity. Seniors are particularly sensitive to changes in light, and homes that feel too dark can contribute to feelings of sluggishness, sadness, or even disorientation over time. Eudora replaced her old setup with soft, light-filtering linen panels. They allowed sunlight to gently pour into the room while still offering privacy. The change was immediate. Her plants perked up. The air felt cleaner. Her own energy lifted. And best of all, the room suddenly looked bigger, not because anything else had moved, but because the light had room to move. She didn't go for anything trendy or expensive, just something that made her feel open, calm, and present. If your windows are dressed for a version of your life that no longer fits, maybe it's time to let the light in, literally. Your home should evolve with you. Let go of anything that makes your space feel smaller than it is. And stay with us, because the next item? It's something many people think makes their home feel rich or impressive, but it may be quietly stealing the space and freedom you've worked so hard to create. Item 8. Formal furniture meant for guests who don't come. In the corner of Eudora Mae's dining room sat a grand oak table with 6 matching high-back chairs, polished to perfection, barely touched. It had belonged to her mother before her, and for decades, it stood as a symbol of pride. Every Thanksgiving, every birthday, every family milestone had once gathered around that table. But now, at 73, Eudora mostly ate her meals at the small round table in her sunlit breakfast nook, where the chairs didn't creak and the light poured in gently each morning. The formal dining set had become more of a monument than a memory. It wasn't just the table. In the living room, 2 stiff leather armchairs flanked a fireplace that hadn't been used in years, both chosen for style over comfort, both silently awaiting guests that rarely came. They were chairs meant for company. The kind that once filled her home with laughter and footsteps. But these days, most of those visitors were phone calls, not drop-ins. One Saturday, while dusting the dining chairs for the 3rd time that month, Eudora paused and asked herself something few dare to: what am I really waiting for? This is a quiet truth many older adults carry without realizing it. We often hold on to formal furniture as if preserving some version of hospitality that no longer fits our lifestyle. We design for someday instead of today. But when our homes are filled with furniture that no longer serves our bodies, routines, or current social lives, it becomes more burden than blessing. Eudora eventually donated the massive dining set to a local shelter that helps young families furnish their first homes. In its place, she added a smaller, extendable table that could seat 4 comfortably but shrink to 2 for everyday use. She replaced the stiff chairs with 2 supportive swivel rockers, lightweight, easy to move, and perfect for her afternoon crossword or evening tea. Her space became not just prettier, but practical. Minimalism doesn't mean cold or empty. It means freeing yourself from items that no longer earn their place in your life. Your furniture should work for you, not for people who might stop by once a year, or not at all. So ask yourself, is there a piece of furniture in your home that you're keeping more out of tradition than usefulness? If it's not serving your now, maybe it's time to make room for comfort, movement, and peace. Item 9. Wall quotes that no longer reflect who you are. Above the entryway in Eudora Mae's home, a wooden sign had hung for over 20 years. Burnt into its grain was the phrase, "Chaos is creativity." It had been a gift from a colleague during her final years as a school principal, back when her life was a whirlwind of lesson plans, parent meetings, and the beautiful chaos of children. At the time, it made her smile, a reminder to embrace the messiness of life, to find art in the unstructured, and to let go of perfection. But now, her days were slower. Her house was quiet. And every time she passed under that sign, it didn't feel like encouragement anymore. It felt outdated. Not wrong, just not hers anymore. Many older adults keep quote art around without realizing how much those words shape the atmosphere of a room. Wall quotes, once chosen to inspire or energize, can become background noise or worse, subtle reminders of identities we've outgrown. Just because something once reflected your truth doesn't mean it still does. And when the words on your wall stop matching the rhythm of your current life, they become a quiet dissonance. One afternoon, while sipping tea in her reading nook, Eudora looked up and thought, what quote would comfort me today? Not the woman she was when raising kids or leading faculty meetings, but the woman she is now, living a simpler, more reflective life. She took the old quote down and replaced it with a small linen banner that simply read, "Still Becoming." It was soft, honest, present. For some, the best wall quote might be none at all, just a clean space that feels peaceful without needing to say a word. For others, it might be a handwritten note, a favorite line from a hymn, or a quiet mantra like "I am allowed to rest." The point isn't to decorate, it's to reflect. Let your walls speak with you, not just at you. Take a slow look around your space. What are your walls saying to you each day? Are they still lifting you up, or gently dragging you back? Drop your answer in the comments below. What would your wall say if it told the truth about your today? Item 10. Glass top surfaces. Eudora Mae used to admire the sleekness of glass. Her coffee table was a clear rectangle with silver legs, a housewarming gift from a cousin decades ago. At the time, it felt modern and elegant, like something out of a home magazine. For a while, she kept it spotless. Windex, microfiber cloths, corner-to-corner polish. But as the years rolled on, something shifted. She found herself noticing fingerprints more than the table itself. Dust settled faster. A single water ring could ruin her morning. It became less of a feature and more of a chore, one that reminded her, daily, of something left undone. And when you're older, especially living alone, even small tasks like this can begin to drain you, not because they are hard, but because they are constant. Glass top surfaces are sold as elegant and airy, but in practice, they often require more upkeep than they are worth. Every speck, smudge, and smudge of dust becomes visible in the light. And that visibility creates a subtle pressure. I should clean that. I meant to wipe that. For older adults, especially those seeking simplicity and calm in their spaces, this kind of mental noise adds up. Eudora realized she wasn't enjoying her coffee table anymore, she was managing it. So she swapped it for a wooden table with a soft matte finish and rounded edges. It didn't glare in the sun. It didn't show every touch. It felt warm, lived in, and gentle. And without the glass, the room felt instantly softer. The same went for a few glass shelf picture frames and display units. She kept the photos, but replaced the frames with natural wood. She even removed a glass side table that had become a catch-all for unopened mail. What she noticed most was how quickly the room relaxed. It didn't look unfinished. It looked free. For seniors especially, simplifying doesn't mean stripping your home of personality. It means creating a space that doesn't whisper criticism at you every time the light hits a surface. If you find yourself constantly wiping, adjusting, or feeling behind, take a second look at your glass top pieces. Are they really serving you? Or are they quietly adding another layer of pressure to your day? Sometimes, the most peaceful home isn't the one with the perfect shine. It's the one that lets you be just as you are. When Eudora Mae finished her quiet transformation, her home didn't feel empty, it felt like it had exhaled. Gone were the objects that once made sense in a busier, louder season of life. In their place was breathing room. Not sterile. Not bare. Just intentional. She could walk from one end of her living room to the other without sidestepping baskets or bending around over-decorated corners. Her body moved more freely. Her eyes landed more softly. And in that calm, she noticed something surprising. She didn't miss any of it. The porcelain animals, the unused dining chairs, the seasonal bits left out of habit, none of it haunted her. In fact, the opposite was true. With each thing she released, a memory became lighter, more available to her heart without being anchored to a physical object. She could still tell the story of her grandmother's china. She could still remember the excitement of buying her first set of curtains. But those memories no longer needed to be trapped in unused items. What Eudora created wasn't a minimalist house, it was a house that fit her now. One that honored the past but didn't live in it. She still had her favorite books. Her granddaughter's sewing project. Her framed recipe card from her mother. But each item had earned its place. Not because it was expensive or gifted, but because it still brought meaning. This is the shift we rarely talk about after 60, the difference between keeping things and keeping peace. We spend so much of our lives accumulating, preserving, and maintaining, until one day, it turns and starts to quietly manage us. That's when the gentle work begins, of letting go, not to erase history, but to make space for rest, reflection, and renewal. So here's the takeaway. Your home isn't a museum for everything you've ever loved. It's a sanctuary for who you are becoming. If this video gave you even one moment of clarity, tap that like button. If you know someone whose house looks full but whose heart feels heavy, share this with them. And if you're ready for a home that supports your peace, not your guilt, subscribe. Right here on Wise Aging Seniors, we're making space not just in our homes, but in our lives. One gentle decision at a time.